I'm Snigdha Narke, and I'm going to talk about the NEET paper leak that has happened in the last 2.5 months in India and the aftermath of the same. You can see a lot of protests going on all over India about the NEET paper, but that's not what we are going to talk about. We are going to actually talk about the leak and what caused the leak, and we are going to understand the systemic issue in the competitive exam market and the leaks that have happened in many other exams over the past few decades. And that is what I've been doing for the past 2 months. I've been researching the exams uh, and the leaks that have happened in India. So in my research, uh, what came up is that there have been 45 major leaks in India in the past 24 years, and this particular leak is also not an isolated instance. This is a systemic governance failure, and because of which almost 1.7 crores students have been disenfranchised by the education system and have been affected. And we are also going to talk about accountability, where I see from the research, at least whatever is available online, uh, there have been absolute or near zero convictions for all these paper leaks on to any stakeholders really. And we are also going to talk about the fixes that could short term and long term fix this leak problem. So when you talk about the paper leaks, we need to first look at the history uh, over the past few decades. And from 2000 to 2025, there have been 45 major leaks, and around 2019 to 2024 itself, 67 papers have leaked across India in 19 states, small exams and big exams. And as I said, 1.7 crore aspirants have been affected, and there has been only one conviction. That in itself outlines our biggest problem, because the deterrents are so weak. Of course, the perpetrators are more bold and they don't fear the system anymore. Now, coming back to the problem at hand, let's understand the NEET exam leak as it happened in the timeline. As you can see, on the 3rd of May, the NEET paper was to be conducted, which was conducted at the same time and across 500 cities. 22.7 to 22.8 lakh candidates appeared for this paper-based examination. This is very important. And then it was realized by the students itself that late April, some guest papers were circulated on Telegram and WhatsApp, and out of that, 180 matched the live paper, which was a staggering number. And when it was reported to the government cancelled the NEET on the 12th of May and announced re-NEET, and fees were refunded and a fresh admit cards were announced. And once that and all was done, on 21st of June, there was a re-NEET, and the re-exam was conducted. The results are also out now, and the students have already gotten their results. This entire proceeding was handed over to the CBI, and the government also announced that this entire next exam onwards, they are going to try to have a computer-based testing mode, which would reduce the possibility of leaks. Now, that is what we feel or we hope that will happen. But before that, we need to understand exactly where the lapses happen, so that would only a computer-based test uh, mode fix this problem or not. Okay, so what this exposed was, there was an insider in the NTA that actually leak the papers. Okay, the coaching center distribution network, they are the ones who distributed the papers. There was somebody in Pune who purchased the papers, distributed it through the coaching centers, and the PDFs were sold in Rajasthan by candidate's father and sold as PDFs. Okay, and the per price was 2 to 5 lakh rupees, which is a huge amount to pay for a paper, but students and their parents paid that amount. This is a very important number, because we need to understand why would a parent or a student be ready to pay this amount instead of just appearing for the paper and getting admission wherever the marks lead them? So this is a big question that arises. So what are the core lessons that a single insider was able to get the paper, use a smartphone, send it to somebody across the coaching centers, and an entire 22 lakh students were affected because of it. And this is not just the student. Of course, the life lost was a loss that will never ever be refilled. But then there was also financial cost to the government, because this entire exercise of NEET is also a very expensive exercise. So the centers had to redo the entire process, and that cost added up. Also, the students who had given the papers, they felt so disenfranchised by this entire uh, incidents that now they are protesting. And uh, at least the legitimate students that are protesting, I completely understand their emotions, because it is not easy to study and then give an exam and then something like this to happen to you, which is not your fault at all. Now, in any exam like this one, there are weak points. Okay, weak points where the papers could be leaked from, and we need to understand those leak points. That is the most important thing. That is going to take us to a solution. So the first leak point was the printing presses. Some other exams that I studied, the leak happened at the printing presses where the papers are printed. Then the storage and transportation, wherever after printing the papers are transported or stored, that is a second link where the papers could be uh, leaked from. Then the exam center insiders. So when the papers reach the exam centers, they sit there for a couple of days, and that is the time where the papers could be leaked as well. And given the technology today, it's very easy to just take pictures of the papers and send it across internet, and the reach would be in lakhs already. So this also becomes a major weak point. Then the agency insider, like in this case, the NTA female who leaked the papers. And then this coaching network, which is an organized sector, which has the contact numbers of all the students, so that it's very easy for them to, uh, if they are able to get hands on the paper through agency insiders or any of these players, it's the next network is in their hand. They have the contact numbers of the students, and so the papers can be very easily distributed to the students that are currently giving the exam in this cycle itself. Okay, so this entire chain is the weak points of the uh, paper leak chain. On this slide, you're going to see the number of seats available to the number of students that sit for that particular seat. Okay, and in my paper, I call this the pressure leak ratio. So when the pressure is very high, the probability of the leak is high. Not saying that every time when the pressure is high that there will be a leak, but yes, whenever the ratio of students to the number of seats is very low, so when there are a couple of lakh students competing for a couple of thousand seats, then yes, the chances of this entire leak uh, increases. So that is also a very important number that the government must consider. So on this particular slide, you'll be able to see that there are different modus of operandis or different leak patterns. Uh, the first leak pattern that you see on the top is the transportation, the printing presses, and all those kind of leaks. The second are the actual exams are hacked and the papers are redistributed. The third, in Northeast, the marks itself are tampered with. Then that is a problem with the governance integrity itself. So there are different type of leak patterns, and then you will also see that there are certain clean jurisdictions like Puducherry or Lakshadweep or even Goa. Goa is actually known to be one of the more least exam leaks are the least in Goa. First of all, one, because they have something called as the just-in-time system, and that is actually part of our solution. So I will talk about it later. And we already have a state in our country which has successfully reduced the leaks. So that is something that we need to study. So what did this particular government do since it has come to power about the paper leaks, or has it done nothing? That's not the case. This government has done quite a bit. They came up with a new law that is called India's new legal framework, and the act was passed in 2024 and implemented in June of 2024 itself. And what does it cover? It covers all the exams like UPSC, SSC, RRB, banking, NEET, JEE, CUET, NETA, and all major CAT and all major national level exams. It targets both paper leaks and digital manipulations. So they have covered even the future possibility of leaks through the CBT. Okay, uh, so they have covered, the law covers a big range of possibility of leaks, not just leaks but even cheating. So what are the what counts as unfair means is leaking question papers, impersonating fakes, giving fake exams, then fake admit cards, tampering with computer networks, having a paper solving service. So they have actually covered a huge range. But the problem is the policy gap. Okay, what is the policy gap? That yes, the law is very good, but the implementation of the enforcement of the law is very weak. Okay, as we have discussed, only one conviction over so many crimes, which is actually should have been the deterrent. But here they have given penalties. For individuals, it's going to be 3 to 5 years and up to 10 lakh rupees fine. Organized rackets, 5 to 10 years and minimum 1 crore fine. And institutional providers, like in this particular case, it's 3 to 10 years, 1 to 4 crores fine and ban. Okay, but 1 crore fine to 4 years ban, sorry. But the cost of re-exam is much higher than these fines. Okay, even this particular instance, even if this person, this institution will pay 1 crore rupees, the cost of re-exam is already 100 crores plus. So this nowhere covers the cost. So there itself, the weakness of our uh, law, and again the implementation is also pretty obvious. So now when we study India and we want to fix the exam process, so we admit that something is broken. So how do we process? How do we change it? By looking at best practices. Of course, we can come up with our own ideas, but then also we can look externally to other countries who have similar exams and look at the best practices. What I did is I studied all similar kind of exam across the world and try to understand how they tackle these kind of issues. Countries like Finland has gone completely digital and has locks placed on their exam portals or their vaults where the papers are kept. Japan still has paper or pen, but there is well, it does a lot of other things, but then in Japan there are disqualifications and bans on students who cheat in exams. Germany still has paper or and pen exam, but it's decentralized process and it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in phases. And the second most important thing is, again, the punishment handing out is very quick. In China itself, in my reading, it came out that since 2015 to now, China has handed out 11,000 punishments to people. So what this particular thing tells us is that it's not that cheating doesn't happen anywhere where else in the world. It does happen, and then they come up with solutions so that it doesn't happen again. Okay, so that is what we need to do. We need to have stricter laws, and we have to implement those laws in a more swift way so that it becomes a deterrent for the next cycle of the exam. So further in the paper, uh, I tried to answer the question like why does it remain rational for individuals to cheat? Okay, why do people think it's okay to cheat? What is the reasoning behind this cheating? And there has to be some kind of an economic impact, because I don't believe any student goes into the examination thinking that I will cheat. So we came up with an equation. So the equation is the expected value of cheating is almost equal to the price value minus the bribe price minus the probability of conviction or into penalty. So what is the price? The price is a government seat, government MBBS seat, which costs 5,000 to 9,000 rupees, whereas a private or alternative deemed university costs 90 lakhs to 1.37 crores. That's the difference itself is very big. Okay. So the gap is worth almost 1 crore. And by in 25-26 itself, 32 out of the 54 deemed universities charged over 1 crore rupees in fees for MBBS, which the difference between government and private colleges is very big and it's not affordable for all students. The second, the bribe. What is the cost of the bribe? It's almost 8 to 50 lakhs per candidate. On an average across the country, some states it's higher, some states it's lower. Okay, one paper resells to around 30 buyers. So the main person who buys this paper pays around 50 lakh rupees, and then he sells it or she sells it to around 30 more buyers to near zero marginal cost. What is their cost after they buy the paper? They have no investment, no more further investment. So they can charge a single paper to around 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs and make around 4 to 9 crore rupees. So the bribe is much cheaper for a student to pay 3 to 4 lakh rupees in bribe to buy this paper than to pay that 1 crore premium in a private or deemed university. And then the conviction risk, the last part of our equation, is near zero. Only one conviction over 148 cases over 11 years. So then, of course, the deterrent is so weak. Nor are the people who are the ringleaders are afraid, or the students are not afraid. Nobody is afraid to go ahead and do this. So the whole issue can be very easily explained by a simple economic equation. So, what do I propose? This is my blueprint, and I'll explain it in a bit. This is my solution number one: a secure paper-based system for now. Okay, so that by the next cycle itself, we will have this in place. What will happen? Teachers from all over India that already give questions to the National Testing Agency for the NEET exam. Let's just take NEET for example right now. They will submit their questions to the agency. The agency will shortlist 50,000 to 1 lakh or maybe more questions, categorize them into difficulty levels A, B, C, D, and then store all those questions in a central database somewhere, which is completely secured uh, in their facility. Okay. Then on the day of the paper, early morning, a algorithm that is pre-written will select questions randomly and generate 4 sets of papers, which will be then sent encrypted to the 500 plus centers across the globe, where a computer decrypts and prints those papers under video surveillance without any human intervention. Once those papers start printing, around after 2 hours, the timing will be calculated, of course, according to the center and the number of candidates that are there at a center. But then the papers start printing, and once the papers have been printed, an authorized person without any telephones or any other electronic recording devices will enter that vault, that room, strong room, let's call it a strong room, and start packing those papers in envelopes. And have classroom names written on those envelopes. Once that packing is done, that team leaves the room and the team of invigilators enters, picks up the envelope and walks to the classroom and gives it to the examiner. The examiner opens the envelopes only when all students are seated in the exam center. And then those papers are distributed to the students. These are 4 different type of papers. Nobody will know what questions out of that 1 lakh or 50,000 question banks have been selected by the algorithm. And there are 4 different type of question papers. So even if there was a hack, it will be very difficult for anybody to know what exactly is going to come in the question paper. The lead time between the printing of paper and the exam itself is so less and under such security that the chances of the leak will be reduced to a big extent. Yes, there is going to be an extra expense of putting up printers and seeing that the printers work properly, and then the dry runs have to be done. Well, as technology changes, you have to come up with better use of technology so that we can harness technology to reduce these kind of mishaps. Now, nobody said that this is going to be easy or this is going to be a complete fix. Apart from the multi-set papers, there should be independent audit and red teams that will go to each exam center and check for any lapses. There should also be clear accountability chain. Now, this is very important. Criminal and administrative liability explicitly mapped to specific roles in the custody chain. Okay, so if a paper is leaked from a certain exam center, then who in that exam center is going to be held liable? And what are the penalties on that person? That should be explicitly marked and set out and should be carried out in case of a lapse. Now, according to me, this entire process should take around 10 to 12 months. That means by the next NEET cycle. And the cost is going to be 115 to 175 crores. This particular idea is called just-in-time system. It is already implemented across the world in many countries. I am not claiming it to be an original idea, but it is tested in many countries. Goa also has a variant of the same process going on. So we don't have to reinvent anything. We can just see what the Goa government is doing, and we can replicate that across the country. And from there, after the first cycle, we can from that cycle we can go to the hybrid model and the CBT readiness, the computer based tests. Now this is a significant investment and significant commitment to the testing centers, because this will not just be for NEET, the CBTs will be for a lot many exams. Hence we will have to work on the algorithms, the security protocols, then stricter implementations of laws. The vault where the exam papers or the exam questions are stored would have to be extremely highly secured. Um, and after the first 12 months and the implementation of Blueprint 2.1, we could start moving to the uh, CBT readiness. But then again, we need to understand that the CBT ready, even if we have computer based tests, there are always going to be centers in remote areas where the paper and pen test need to be conducted. Also, there are going to be certain candidates who are not going to be able to give the exam through the computer based test. We have to also make accommodations for the differently abled people. We have to make accommodations for many rural population that may not have the infrastructure ready by the end of 2 years. Okay, and the net investment and the cost of this is also going to be high. It's almost going to be more than 200 crores. This is a very conservative cost, but it's going to be more than 200 crores, and it is uh, a big number. So what I would like to suggest is that this could be the phase 2 of implementation once the phase 1 is complete. Now we have fixed let's say we have fixed the exams. Does that mean there are going to be no leaks? Not really, because as I said, it's a multi-phasic approach that is required to handle this issue, because it's a problem from top to the bottom. Okay, so there are many roadblocks the uh, in the pathway. So the first one that I have identified earlier is the fee regulation and transparency. Uh, the difference between a government college and a deemed university fee is so high that the people feel it's better to cheat and get a seat than to get admission through the normal processes. Also, for open category students, it becomes extremely difficult to get a government seat, because again the availability for seats is very less. So here I would suggest if the government could regulate these deemed universities and these deemed medical colleges, and uh, bring the fees not probably at the government level, but considerably below where they are right now, by offering help, say, to the deemed universities, or by regulating it to a certain extent, or both, but to reduce the gap as much as possible. Also, uh, the jobs that students from the government colleges get in government hospitals, and the salary that they get is much higher than the salaries that the private the students get in a private setting. Okay, so it's that difference is also very big. So if we could try to close that gap and try to bring it to a similar level, probably that would be one way of fixing a problem. The second way is, why is MBBS such a premium product? Because all the weight of the healthcare profession is on MBBS. Many countries have diversified their uh, medical licensing or medical education by creating alternative pathways to healthcare professionals. So, are there any ways in India that we can funnel the students through different pathways, giving them opportunity to see a plan B, which is probably not of the same value, but not a very low value, so that even if this does not work, they will find some other way to get into the healthcare profession. So if there are alternative paths to becoming a healthcare professional, apart from just becoming a doctor, then probably the price on MBBS, the pressure on MBBS would be less. The second, the last one is credible enforcement, meaning when the students make a decision, uh, also the enforcement of law when something like this happens should be swift and just. I'm not saying stricter, but at least consistent and swift, not selective. The punishments handed out in one instance in one examination should be the same handed out in the other instance and in the same speed. So those are the reforms that are required. I also have another one to add, where if a student is counseled before even entering this entire NEET process, and if there are certain uh, kind of counseling sessions given to the students to understand if at all NEET is a exam that is NEET, JEE, whatever, are exams that are correct for them to pursue, or if there are other alternatives that they can do, so that they can set their expectations realistically, this heartbreak can be avoided, and we will also be able to get uh, realistic goal settings for the students. So those are my 2 cents on the exam. If you want to read my paper in detail, I will have it posted somewhere on my website or somewhere on my profile. Please go ahead and have a look. I'm very eager to talk to people who want to constructively solve this issue and get students relaxed into the education and get all these pressures and off them. I would also like to hear from you about other possible solutions for this issue. May it be technology driven, or may it be fixing the current paper and pen test. But I always urge all of you to be respectful, keep the dialogues open, and be able to communicate your issues and resolve uh, issues through dialogue and through research. Thank you very much.